6 lessons to land your dream product management job in 2026 from my most awesome clients. Look, over the past year, I've had privilege of working with some incredible product managers who've landed role at companies like Meta, Google, Amazon, Salesforce, Capital One, Lucid Motors, Coinbase, Stripe, and beyond. But here's what I keep seeing. It's never a lack of skill that holds people back. It's something else entirely. Today, I'm sharing the 6 most powerful lessons from my most successful clients this past year. And if you want to land your dream role and become the standout product leader, pay close attention because these lessons are not what you'd expect. Especially wait for lesson number 6 because it's the one that changes everything and most people completely miss it. So let's dive right in. Let's start with lesson number 1. Your skills aren't the problem. Your positioning and packaging is. Most product managers think that they need one more certificate. They need to build some more skills, learn something more, do more, but that's almost never the issue. Kyuri, for example, had 12 years of B2B product management experience. She got laid off, started interviewing, and fumbled 3 early opportunities, not because she couldn't do the job, but because she couldn't articulate why she was the right person for it. Here's how she described it.
Like I tell this to everybody who will hear me, is that IJ's program, it's branded and publicized as a job search program, but it's a makeover program for PMs. That's how I think of it, because a lot of people in the same boat that I am, if you've done the work in the industry for 12 years, you know how to be a PM. That's not your challenge.
Yeah.
You don't know how to package yourself.
A makeover program. Look, I love that she said that because it's so true. Kyuri didn't need to become a better product manager. She needed to learn how to show the world the product manager she already was. And once she did, she landed a staff PM role for AI-powered billing at Clio, a unicorn legal tech company. And the compensation?
Eventual number where I started and where I actually ended up being 100K more, which is mind-boggling to me. Like I would have never expected, never mind demanded that.
$100,000 more than where she started. Not because she suddenly became more experienced in those few months, but because she learned how to package and position the experience she already had. So the bottom line, if you've been doing the work for years and you're still getting overlooked, problem is not your skill. Problem is your packaging. And that's fixable. Which takes me to lesson number 2. Your best stories, they're buried. I need to dig them out and you need to understand what makes them unique. This one hits close to home to so many of my clients. Shruti had 20 years of experience. 10 of those were at Amazon. She had an incredible track record. But when she started her job search, she was failing interviews and losing confidence fast. This is what she said.
Yeah, it did hurt my confidence because I'm like, I thought I was a decent, good enough candidate that someone would want, and what is going on, right? That was the question. I'm like, what's happening here? It was hard to decipher and absorb and digest that, which was causing all the frustration and self-doubt.
What was the problem? It wasn't her experience. It was that she'd been summarizing her career in bullet points for so long that she'd literally forgotten the best parts of her own story.
Oh my God, I had forgotten so many of the highlights of my story just because I was writing. I always wrote down my stories in star, but I would write bullets and I wouldn't write the entire story. But I think that whole exercise of, and even the coaches asking those questions, and I think you were also one of them, that, hey, but what about this? Did something happen here? I think that was the eye-opening moment of, I can say this story so much better with much better metrics and data points and highlights that I had just forgotten to mention.
This is so common. You've been doing incredible work for years, but you can compress it into bullet points and LinkedIn summaries until the richness, the drama, the impact, it all gets lost. Shruti went through the process of writing out her full narratives. Not bullet points, full story. And it completely transformed how she showed up in interviews. She went from failing loops to landing a director of product role for e-commerce and self-service at Salesforce. Look, your stories are there. You need to dig them out. You need to understand what makes you unique, and you need to recognize why you did was so amazing and so impactful. And then you need to do this next part. Lesson number 3. Reframe your story for where you are going, not where you've been. Santiago, one of our clients, he got laid off. And like a lot of people in that situation, he went into a panic mode. Here's what he had to say.
In the beginning, especially, it was very frantic, very anxious, and I would almost be at the computer 14, 15 hours a day, just applying to any role that came across my screen. I reached out to the people closest to me at the companies that were interesting to me at that point. maybe 1 or 2 referrals came through, but ultimately I was just going out there into the wild and just mass applying shotgun style and hoping for the best.
14 to 15 hours a day, rage applying to everything. Sound familiar? But here's what Santiago figured out that most people miss. He was telling the story in a way that made sense for his old job, not the job he wanted next.
To me, what stood out the most was how to reframe our experiences so that it sounds appealing to the other person, not in a way that would have been appealing to the job that you are no longer in. And that was one of the things that I was struggling. My resume and my speeches all sounded great if I was still in the previous job. Tying that to the next role, I think, was the key for me.
Watch that again. Most people tell their story backward. They describe what they did in terms that made sense in their last company with the jargon from their last industry optimized for the role that they just left. But the hiring manager sitting across from you doesn't care about that context. They care about their problem, their goals, their team's gaps. What Santiago learned was very important. He learned how to reframe his entire narrative around where he was going. And he landed a product role in Capital One's AI product division. Completely new space for him, but he didn't need new experience for that. He needed to reframe the experience he already had. So if you're making a move into a new industry, a new domain, or a new level, this lesson is everything. But you can take it one step further and you can do what one of our clients did in lesson number 4. Do the work before you get the job. This lesson is about a mindset that separates the people who get offers from the people who get polite rejection. Victor was a product manager at ServiceNow facing an impending layoff. He joined our program and something clicked. He stopped treating the interview as a test and started treating it as an audition. Before the company even asked for a case study, Victor proactively created one and submitted it. He researched the company's challenges, put together a strategic plan, essentially showed them what it would look like to have him on the team. The hiring team was blown away. Nobody else had done that.
I had watched this movie before, long ago, and I was not about to watch a sequel of the same old movie. Right? I knew where it was going. So I knew this time I had to do something different.
I love that. Not about to watch a sequel of the same old movie. Victor landed a PM role at Clary, owning workflow and actions products. And it wasn't because he checked every box on the job description. It was because he showed up like he already had the job. He did the work before he got the job. The candidates who win aren't waiting to be evaluated. They are demonstrating value before anyone asks them to.
Who and what you or I become in the process is way more important than the dream that you have in your mind. Right? You have to ask yourself on a daily, hourly, minute by minute, monthly basis as a man sometimes, kind of grind through. Ask yourself, what kind of person do you want to be? And then Shobit, my thing to people is fight like hell to get to be that person.
That right there. That's the energy that gets you hired. And something else can block that energy, which takes me to the next lesson. Desperation is a suit you're wearing without knowing it. This one might be uncomfortable to hear, but it's one of the most important lessons from this past year. Brendan had been out of work for a long time. He was doing everything the way you're supposed to. Applying on LinkedIn, applying on Indeed, tweaking his resume, sending it out, but nothing was working. Here's what he had to say.
I don't think we talked about this, was I'd been out of work for a long time. And I think you start to wear that after a while. Even if people aren't talking to you or seeing you, it might come through in your writing. And again, I can't put any data across on this, but when I started being more intentional, about my job search, in other words, things, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but things like tell me about yourself and having a narrative and a story to talk about my experience, made it much easier for the recipient to understand my background. And 2, it gave me so much more confidence to engage in these initial screenings and calls that I showed up in a much better way, not wearing that suit of desperation.
A suit of desperation. That phrase stuck with me because it's so real. When you've been searching for months, that desperation seeps into everything. Your emails, your LinkedIn messages, your interview answers, your follow-ups. You can see it on yourself. Everyone else can totally feel it. And here's what finally pushed Brendan to change his approach.
It's like, wait a minute. Didn't you go to that place to go surfing? For some ridiculous amount of money for what was it, 6 days? She's like, why wouldn't you do the same thing for your career? And I was like, I don't have a good answer for that.
He invested in getting help, built a clear narrative, got his clarity statement dialed in, and completely shifted how he showed up. He landed a senior manager of product management role at Staples, leading their mobile app. The skills were always there. The desperation was hiding them. If you've been searching for a while and you're not getting traction, ask yourself honestly, am I wearing that suit without knowing it? Because taking it off might be the single biggest thing you can do for your career and your job search. Now, there's another lesson that relates to that, and you need to really hear it. There's something most people miss. Lesson number 6. Your anxiety speaks louder than your answers. I saved this one for last because it's a lesson that most people completely underestimate. Annabelle is one of the most dynamic people I've worked with. She's smart, she's driven, she's got an incredible personality. But in interviews, something different was showing up. One of our coaches gave her some brutally honest feedback.
And one of the coaches was like, where's the drama? I don't understand why this problem is a problem. And like, honestly, your answer was kind of boring. And I was like, those are the 2 words that nobody would ever describe me as. I'm dramatic and I'm pretty like, I'm the opposite of boring. And so that was like, oh crap, I'm not showing up the way that I see myself or others see me.
Her anxiety was literally muting who she was. The real Annabelle, the one that her friends and colleagues knew, was disappearing the moment she walked into an interview. And here's the thing. Annabelle told me that 80% of the work was mindset, not content. Her stories were fine. Her skills were fine. But her anxiety was like a filter that stripped out all the color and personality. So what did she do? She went deep on the mindset work. She did visualization. She worked on her energy. And then she did something that completely blew the hiring team away. For a final case study, she went out and actually interviewed 9 customers of the product before presenting her recommendation.
And when I show up to this case study, I go, yep, here's what I'm proposing. And I already like tested the concept with the customers and my hypothesis, and this is what they said. And they're like, you actually talked to these people and sent them these concepts? I go, yeah. And just how this is my level of confidence in my proposal. And again, I ended that call and I'm like, I'm moving on to the next round. I know it. And I've never in my entire career have walked out of an interview feeling that confident. And
Never in her entire career. That's the kind of transformation that happens when you stop letting anxiety run the show and you start showing up as your actual self. Annabelle landed a senior product management role at Relay, a fintech company. Not because she suddenly learned new framework, because she finally showed up as herself.
Especially as product managers, we're like, nope, we're meant to solve all the problems. We're meant to be the leaders. We're meant to buckle down. And it could feel like a lot to say, I'm going to invest in this program and get some help and get the support system. I should be able to hunker down and do it on my own. And you can, but it's going to take longer. It's not going to be as fun. And it may not be as fruitful.
So there you have it. 6 hard-earned lessons from my most successful clients this past year. Let me recap. Lesson number 1, your skills aren't the problem. Your packaging and positioning is. Learn how to position yourself as a product manager you already are. Lesson number 2, your best stories are buried under years of bullet points. Write them out fully. Figure out what makes you unique and the gold comes out. Lesson 3, stop telling your story for where you've been. Reframe it for where you're going. Lesson number 4, do the work before you get the job. Show up like you already have it. Lesson 5, desperation is a suit you wear without knowing it, and everyone else can see it. Lesson 6, your anxiety speaks louder than your answers. The real you is what gets you hired. Now, if you're watching this and feeling like something resonated, ask yourself, do you have a clear, compelling narrative? Are you packaging and positioning yourself the right way? Is your energy helping you or hurting you? And are you showing up as the real you and ready to audition for the job and do the job before you get it? If the answer to any of those is no, it's time to change your approach. Book a strategy session with us where we can dig into your approach and figure out where are things missing, where are the gaps. And if there's ways we can help you, happy to walk you through. But if not, you'll still end up with this recognition, this clear understanding of what makes you unique, of where the gaps are and what you need to do to get to the next level in your job search. Now, once you've done that, make sure you watch this next video where I walk you through exactly what I would do if I was looking for an AI product management role in 2026. Click here to watch it.